The first time he kissed me, it wasn't love, it was survival. And maybe that's the cruelest joke of all. That I let myself drown in him, knowing from the very start he would never dive in after me. Los Angeles doesn't forgive dreamers, not really. It spits you out, chews your name until it tastes like ashes, and if you're unlucky enough, it keeps you around just long enough to watch the ones you love step into the spotlight while you vanish into the shadows. I was 23 when I became his. His name? Adrian Cole. The youngest studio director Hollywood had seen in decades. Ruthless, magnetic, terrifyingly good at pretending he had everything under control. And me? I was nothing more than a production assistant with too much hope in my chest and not enough armor around my heart. Adrian saw me when no one else did. That's the part that kills me. The way his eyes lingered a little too long during late-night meetings, the brush of his fingers when he handed me a script, the quiet way he asked if I'd eaten when the rest of the world couldn't even remember my name. It should have been a warning. But when he pulled me into his office one night, his lips tasting of whiskey and exhaustion, I didn't resist. I let myself believe in the fairy tale, that the man who owned every room he walked into could want me, in secret, in silence, in stolen hours before dawn. No one ever teaches you how to fall in love with someone who cannot claim you. There's a particular cruelty in loving a man who belongs more to the world than he ever will to himself. Adrian's world was cameras, contracts, red carpets, and boardrooms. Mine was the echo of his laughter against my skin, the shadow of his cologne on my pillow, the way his voice cracked when he whispered my name like it was both a prayer and a confession. We weren't lovers. Not really. We were a secret stitched together by moments too fragile to survive daylight. He'd hold me but never introduce me. He'd kiss me, but only behind locked doors. He'd promise me things in the dark that he'd erase with silence in the morning. And still I stayed. Because sometimes, scraps of love feel like feasts when you've starved for it your whole life. I told myself it was enough until it wasn't. The breaking point wasn't dramatic. No shouting match. No tears thrown across a marble floor. It was quieter than that, more devastating. We were at a studio party. The kind with champagne towers and velvet ropes. The kind where everyone smiles too wide and says names like they're trading currencies. I stood at the back, invisible, watching Adrian's hand rest lightly on the small of a woman's back, a famous actress, dazzling in gold. He leaned in close, whispered something that made her laugh. It should have been harmless. A director flattering his star. But the way his hand lingered, the way his lips brushed too close to her ear, I knew. I wasn't the only secret. Maybe I never was. That night, when he came to me, us glassy, voice low, hands shaking like the world was closing in on him, I almost let him in. Almost. But instead, I asked him a question I shouldn't have. Adrian, who am I to you? For a moment, he didn't answer. And in that silence, I understood everything. I wasn't his partner. I wasn't even his priority. I was a ghost he visited when the weight of the world grew too heavy, a name he could forget when the sun rose. That was the night I walked away. Or at least I tried to. Because the cruelest part of love isn't leaving, it's learning how to live with the echo of someone who no longer belongs to you. But here's the thing about secrets. They don't stay buried. Not in Hollywood. Not when every story is worth selling. Not when every whispered rumor can set fire to careers. And Adrian Cole? He wasn't just a man. He was a brand. A legacy in the making. And Mule, I was the crack in his armor. Which meant the world was bound to notice. The morning after I walked away from him, the world felt both unbearably loud and terrifyingly silent. Los Angeles carried on as if nothing had changed. The buzz of traffic, the glittering posters of new films plastered across Sunset Boulevard, the smell of fresh coffee wafting from street carts. And yet, every detail cut like glass, because everywhere I looked, I saw Adrian. I saw him in the reflection of tinted car windows. I heard him in the laughter of strangers. I felt him in the ache that spread across my chest every time I remembered the way his voice dipped when he said my name. I told myself I was done, that leaving meant freedom, but the truth felt more like trying to breathe underwater. And then, 3 days later, he showed up at my apartment. I should have ignored the knock. God, I should have. But the second I opened the door, there he was, Adrian Cole, the man the city worshipped, standing in the dim light of my crappy hallway with rain dripping down the collar of his tailored coat. His hair was wet, slicked back, his eyes darker than I had ever seen them. Don't shut the door, he said, his voice low, urgent, almost broken. I froze, one hand on the knob, my pulse hammering. You can't be here. I had to see you. He took a step closer, his presence filling the small space like oxygen I didn't want to breathe. You didn't answer my calls. You think a voicemail would have changed anything? My laugh came out sharp, bitter. Adrian, this isn't sustainable. I can't be the man you only remember when the lights are off. For a moment he didn't speak, just stood there, jaw tight, as though the weight of his silence could bend me back toward him. And maybe it almost did, because even then, even knowing what I knew, part of me still wanted to touch him. But instead, I whispered, "Go home." He didn't. For weeks he haunted me. I'd see him waiting outside the coffee shop near the studio, his expensive car parked like it belonged to another universe. He left notes slipped under my door, messages scribbled in the kind of handwriting that looked more like confessions than words. And the worst part? I read them all. You're not nothing to me. I don't know how to be what you need, but I can't lose you. Come back, please. It should have been easy to ignore. But every sentence chipped away at the walls I built. Because I didn't want to be free of him. I wanted to be chosen. The city made sure I never forgot him. His name was everywhere: billboards, interviews, magazine spreads. The youngest studio director in Hollywood history. The golden boy of the industry. The man the world wanted. And me? I was the shadow in his story. It wasn't until the night of the premiere that everything cracked open. The theater pulsed with energy, camera flashes sparking like fireworks across the velvet carpet. The air smelled of champagne and ambition. Adrian was there, of course, front and center, dazzling in his black suit, his arm around the actress who starred in his latest project. She glittered like a jewel under the lights, her laughter effortless, her smile blinding. And me? I was at the very edge of the crowd, shoved between journalists and assistants, invisible, until his eyes found mine. It happened in an instant, across the crowd, across the noise, across the endless flash of cameras. His gaze locked on me like I was gravity itself. And God help me, I looked back. In that one glance, every promise, every stolen moment, every unspoken truth roared back to life. But then, just as quickly, he turned back to her, smiled, posed, perfect. And I understood, finally, completely, that I would never be enough. I left before the film even started. Walked straight out into the night, the city air biting against my skin, tears blurring the neon lights into streaks of color. But fate, cruel as it is, doesn't let go so easily. Because as I turned down the street, I heard his voice. Wait! I spun, and there he was, Adrian, breathless, running after me, abandoning the cameras, the press, the whole glittering circus behind him. His tie was loose, his hair messy, his eyes frantic. What the hell are you doing? I demanded, my voice cracking. I can't do this anymore, he said, chest heaving. I can't stand there, pretending, smiling, like you don't exist. You're here. He broke off, shaking his head, his hands trembling. You're the only thing that feels real in all of this. The city roared around us, horns blaring, people shouting, the chaos of Hollywood life, but in that moment, it was just him and me, and the truth I'd been running from. I wanted to believe him. God, I did. But believing him meant trusting that one day he would stop hiding me, that I could be more than a secret. So I asked him the only question that mattered. Then choose me. His face crumpled, like I'd asked him to tear down the world itself. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. My voice shook, but my hands were steady. You either want me in the dark, or you want me in the light. There's no in-between. For a moment, he just stood there, caught between two worlds, the one the city demanded of him, and the one his heart whispered for. And in that silence, I knew my answer. Because if he couldn't choose me now, he never would. So I turned, walked away, didn't look back, even though every step felt like ripping my own heart out of my chest. But the story didn't end there. Because secrets, like I said, don't stay buried. And neither did ours. Hollywood loves a scandal. It feeds on whispers, thrives on shadows, and hungers for the kind of secrets that can burn lives to the ground. And somehow, without even meaning to, I had become the kind of secret worth destroying. Started small. A rumor in an online forum. Some faceless stranger claiming they saw Adrian Cole leaving a dingy coffee shop with a guy who didn't look like Hollywood. A blurry photo followed, two silhouettes in the corner of a grainy shot, one of them unmistakably Adrian. The other, me. Within hours, it spread. Blogs, gossip columns, anonymous Twitter threads. The industry thrives on speculation, and nothing sells faster than the possibility of a scandal in the life of Hollywood's golden boy. First, Adrian brushed it off. He had people for this, publicists, lawyers, the whole machine. "It's noise," he told me, his voice smooth, rehearsed, like he was comforting a child. "It'll pass." But I saw it in his eyes, the panic buried beneath the calm, the storm building just out of sight. And for once I didn't care, because the truth was out there now, raw and dangerous. The world was circling a secret I had carried alone for far too long. I thought maybe, just maybe, would set me free. Didn't. Instead, it trapped me in a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Suddenly, I wasn't just a production assistant. I was someone. Reporters camped outside my apartment. Paparazzi flashed their cameras every time I stepped outside. Strangers on the internet dissected my life like I was a character in a TV show. They wanted to know who I was, what I meant to him, if I was the reason Adrian hadn't been seen with his actress co-star in weeks. And Adrian, he disappeared. Not from Menet completely. He still called late at night, his voice frayed, begging me not to talk to anyone, not to post, not to say a single word that could add fuel to the fire. "I'll fix this," he whispered. "I promise. Just trust me." But that was the thing, I had trusted him. And now the world was burning me alive for it. The studio stepped in next. They called me in one afternoon, the kind of meeting you never want to be summoned to. The conference room was ice cold, all glass walls and leather chairs, with a view of the city sprawling endlessly below. 3 executives sat across from me, their smiles sharp, their words sharper. "We admire your work," one of them said, her tone flat, businesslike. "But this situation with Adrian is untenable." I shifted in my seat, heat crawling up my neck. "Situation? You understand the stakes, don't you?" Another cut in, his fingers tapping impatiently against the table. "The studio has millions invested in Adrian's brand. The public doesn't want a scandal. They want an icon." "And me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The woman's smile tightened. "Your complication. One that needs to go away quietly." They offered me money, a settlement. A non-disclosure agreement slid across the table in a sleek black folder, its weight heavier than any script I'd ever held. "Sign this," they said, "and we'll take care of you. Disappear for a while. Do the smart thing." For a moment, I stared at it, at the way the words blurred on the page, at the life they wanted me to give up, to erase, to vanish. And for the first time, I felt something snap inside me. "No," I said. The word was soft, but it echoed like thunder. Their smiles faltered. "Excuse me, I won't disappear," I said again, louder this time. "I'm not a mistake you can erase." That night, Adrian came to me, his face pale, his tie undone, his hands shaking like he hadn't stopped running since the meeting. "They called you in," he said, voice tight. "It wasn't a question." I nodded. "What did you do?" I told them no. His eyes widened, panic flashing. "You don't understand, this isn't just about us. It's about everything. My career, the studio, the press. If you don't sign, they'll what?" My voice cracked. "Destroy me? They already have Adrian. Every time I walk down the street, I'm not a person, I am your dirty secret splashed across tabloids. I can't go anywhere without being reminded that I'll never be enough for you." He flinched, like the words cut deeper than I intended. "That's not true." "Then prove it." My chest heaved. "Say my name in front of them. Tell the world who I am. Stop pretending I'm invisible." The silence that followed was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. Adrian opened his mouth, closed it again, his jaw trembling, his eyes wet. For the first time, the man who always had an answer had none. And in that moment I knew. He wasn't ready to lose the world for me, and I was done losing myself for him. But the thing about secrets, they grow teeth, and Minnie Orse was about to devour everything. Hollywood had chewed me up and spit me out, and I thought that would be the end of my story. But endings are never that simple. After the scandal reached its fever pitch, the studio scrambled to bury it. They pushed glossy headlines about Adrian's next big project, released carefully staged photos of him with actresses, fabricated stories about his late nights in the editing room. The world moved on, quickly hungry for the next piece of drama. But me, I was left in the ruins. I quit my job at the studio, packed my things into 2 suitcases and left the apartment that still smelled like him. For weeks, I drifted, sleeping on friends' couches, taking odd jobs that had nothing to do with film. I tried to become someone else, someone who had never known the taste of his lips or the weight of his secrets. But the heart doesn't unlearn love just because the world tells it to. Everywhere I went, I carried him with me. In the silence before sleep, in the ghost of his touch on my skin, in the ache that lingered every time I walked past a movie theater flashing his name across the marquee. I hated him. I missed him. Sometimes I didn't know the difference. Months passed. And then one evening, just as the city lights flickered on against the fading sky, I found him waiting outside the small diner where I'd been working. Adrian Cole. But not the Adrian the world knew. Not the perfectly groomed, untouchable man in designer suits. This Adrian looked human, tired. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes softer, almost pleading. "Can we talk?" he asked. I should have walked past him. I should have slammed the door in his face, told him I was done letting him break me. But instead, I followed him to the rooftop of the building next door, where the city stretched out before us in all its glittering cruelty. For a long time we said nothing. Then he whispered, "I lost you." My chest tightened. "You never had me, Adrian. Not really. Not in the way that mattered." He winced but didn't look away. "You were right. About everything. I was a coward. I let fear decide for me. The studio, the press, the image. I let them own me. And in the process, I lost the only real thing I ever had. I wanted to stay angry. God, I wanted to keep every wall around me. But the man standing in front of me wasn't the same one I had left months ago. He wasn't hiding behind power or fame. He was just Adrian, a man stripped bare, trembling with regret. "Why now?" I asked. "Because I don't want to live a life where I have everything but you," he said simply. "I don't care what they say. I don't care what it costs. I can't undo the past. But if you'll let me, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make this right." Silence stretched between us, heavy with everything we'd been and everything we could never be. And then, slowly, I stepped closer. "Adrian," I said softly, my voice breaking, "I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to stop running." His eyes glistened as he nodded, his hand reaching out, trembling, brushing against mine. For the first time, he didn't pull away. He didn't hide. And in that fragile touch, I felt something I hadn't in a long time: hope. The world didn't change overnight. The industry still whispered. The tabloids still speculated. Some people celebrated us, others condemned us. But for once, it didn't matter, because Adrian chose me, out loud, in the light, without shame. We built something new from the ashes, messy, complicated, imperfect, but ours. We argued, we laughed, we learned how to be honest, even when it hurt. And little by little, the weight of being a secret lifted from my shoulders. Sometimes, late at night, he would hold me on that same rooftop, the city humming below us, and whisper, "I thought I'd never be brave enough to love you." And every time, I would smile against his chest and whisper back, "You didn't have to be perfect. You just had to be mine." Hollywood still doesn't forgive dreamers. But maybe love does. And maybe that's enough. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.